Me and, one of the planning board members, well, I forget which one. Oh, Bob was it?
He said he didn't keep up with it.
I stuffed my own mother in the wall to win.
Have you ever been to those indoor tracks? They're crazy.
Oh, yeah, we did, up in F1. It was raining, so we couldn't do the outside.
So they have like the electric indoor
No,
carts?
it was gas.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause the ones that, I think it's called Grand Prix, and they have one out in Farmington.
Oh, no, I wasn't at that one.
These things do like 40 miles, like, they're fast. Quick acceleration.
Oh, really? They did? Yeah, I knew they changed it a couple times. Yeah. Is this the, latest?
Moto one.
I can tell you. Hello, okay. Amanda, okay. Okay.
No, there's a new one.
I got it. Thank you.
And that's, you got this too?
Yes, I do.
Everybody all set?
Oh, yeah. Joe coming? or-
No, no, he's in Washington. Okay, we're gonna get started. We're gonna call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to the October 19th, 2017 Town of Riverhead Planning Board Work Session. The first item on our agenda today is a discussion item for Chapter 219, Kyra Spasoda, 748 Sound Shore Road. Is this the one you have the presentation for? or-
No, that's
That's
next.
the next one, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application was filed after construction of a small retaining wall that was in the jurisdictional limits of the coastal erosion hazard zone. So it did require, the applicant thought, a 219 permit. However, because of the square footage coming in under 200 square feet, it was questionable as to whether or not it was needed. I did inspect the site. The work is in compliance with what the plans and photographs had depicted. So my recommendation to the board would be to consider this at the upcoming, I guess, the next meeting for a resolution. Grant the permit so that the property owner is secure that they have been approved by the board.
We have that today for a resolution.
Oh, we do?
It's on the
Okay,
agenda
fine.
today, yeah.
Thank you.
So there are no issues?
No, no issues at all.
Okay. All right.
The building department issued a permit?
Pardon?
The building department issue a permit?
I'm not certain if building did.
Shall be required. In page 3, this town of Riverhead building department shall be required prior to commencement of
Well,
site work.
correct, but they've already built it, so they'll have to go back and straighten that out with the building department.
Okay, next item, number 2 on the agenda, another 219 application, Donald Schneider.
Yes, will this run?
Yeah.
Okay, so this brief presentation is to explain, this location is at 56 Lewin Lane, Lewin Drive, up in Wading River. The applicant would like to install a gabion wall together with a stone revetment wall in front of the buried cage gabion wall, and connect it to an existing wall and run it along the face of the property. The applicant's dwelling unit is this one just to the right of this tree, so it would be 2 houses over from the staircase. So I took a drone up to fly the site. The elevation is
It's going
see by
slow.
the staircase, considerable. The applicant would also like to put in batter boards up along the face of the bluff
staircase.
Trying.
There's a significant amount of erosion on the face of this lot at this location. Next Tuesday, New York State DEC representatives who are managing the coastal erosion hazard area for the state are coming down here to Riverhead to meet with me. I'm going to take them to this particular site. One of the problems that I envision the board would want to ask the applicant about would, one, be accessibility to get to the site in order to do this. And since the walls that up in this area, the revetment walls, are interrupted periodically, when the sound comes up during a major storm, it can wash out behind the opening in the wall and actually create other erosion to the adjacent properties unless all the walls in this area are integrated and tied together. I see Mr. Anderson, the consultant who prepared the application, is here. If he has if you have a few questions.
Bruce,
again.
can you just introduce yourself to the board?
I'm Bruce Anderson, Suffolk Environmental Consultant. We represent the Schneiders. Connection with the proposed revetment to their eroding bluff. And certainly I'll answer any questions you may have.
Are they proposing stairways with this also?
No. There's a community stairway to the west.
This is at the end of the cul-de-sac that all the residents in the area have access to.
I don't know if anyone's been to the property.
No.
But the erosion there is quite severe. And if we don't address it in a serious way, I'm sure.
Is it gonna be a straight line from the other one? It's not gonna be closer to the sea?
Well, that's the question. If your proposal ties the revetment wall into the
That's
adjacent
correct.
property to the east,
That's correct.
but there's another wall several units down to the west.
Right, we don't have an ability,
You're only stopping it.
we're putting a small return there, so.
So one of my questions or concerns that we'll discuss in greater detail, maybe we'll set up a separate meeting, is whether or not what kind of erosion might be expected on the adjacent properties when that revetment wall terminates at your owner's property.
Well, if you go back to the, first of all, if you go back to the previous slide you had there, to give you a clue, because it shows the bottom of the bluff in relationship with the revetment that's already there. So, you see what I'm saying? So, this revetment here terminates right here, we're connecting here, the property line's about like here. Yeah, there's no doubt there's been a sloughing off over time and electric voltage out of the water there. But the best we can do is precisely what the neighbor's done. Because if we don't, we're simply going to lose the house. I will say this, however, the house over here is set back considerably further and it's at much less risk than we are. This is really quite a serious situation.
Well, I don't know if you were here, New York State DEC, will be going out to the site with me next Tuesday. They're coming down from Albany for other reasons. They're going to take a look at some of the coastal erosion hazard areas here in Riverhead. This is the site I was selected to take them out.
Okay. So that you know they've granted, I'm sorry, what was your name?
Jeff Seeley.
Hi, Jeff. Okay. So, they've already granted a permit for this, and the reason is, whether or not the unit in Albany will be concerned with, I presume, the mapping, the long-term sort of erosional forces on the bluff. But as per statute, the statute is all permitted, that's why we're proposing.
Well, one of the concerns that we've long had with DEC is that they have not updated their mapping in some 30 years, especially after Storm Sandy and some other major nor'easters that we've had. I've been really pressing and encouraging them to remap the coastal erosion hazard line.
Is the wall on their property, Jeff? Is the wall on their property?
There's no wall on their property now.
No, I mean the proposed wall.
The proposed wall will be on their property.
Will be only on their property, that's where the limit of their work will be.
Yeah.
But when you're not tying it into other walls along the toe of the slope,
Keep scattering along the
we're
edges.
gonna be scouring at the end or having erosion and that earlier photograph where they, right adjacent to the staircase, they had terraced the wall well. They did have a revetment wall and that slope was stable. And this adjacent property, slope failed.
Jeff, you had mentioned a concern about where the wall terminates.
Yep.
Storm events where the tide and surge may get behind it and
Yes.
do damage.
Yes.
So where they're proposing to terminate the extension of this wall, will that tie back into the bluff to prevent it from going in and behind it?
That's the proposal. Plus, they're gonna be burying gabion down below, and the revetment wall will be, seaward of the gabion. So it's sort of a double wall technology. And really, it's this terracing effect that greatly aids, in the stability. But one question that I'll have for Bruce either now or later is accessibility to that slope and constructability, how they're going to get the equipment in, and access, the shoreline as well as the slope. It'll depend on getting to do an analysis of the academy itself.
The plan was to access the shoreline from Pulse Landing Road, it's about a half mile to the east, come down the beach, take Griffith Fair. We would have literally truck it in. Material placed on the beach, the Gabion baskets would be put in place in the lower face of the bluff, would be filled by hand. Mattresses, we gave you a mattress which had to be sealed shut, and the armor stone would be installed in front and on top of the gabion structure.
Are we picking this up? Can we
The
hear
plan
him?
is to
Can she hear him?
I can.
flood the bluff, at the stuff at the top, needs to be lowered so temporarily by a rope, almost like a scaffold, is the way it would have to be done. Which we think, that's the only way it can be done, to be honest.
So what we'll ask you to do is prepare that in formal description. I know that some of the plans, maybe we didn't have enough copies, but we'll speak offline and get all that together for the board to review.
We are concerned that this moves along because almost out of hurricane season, not worried about that, but as you know, during the winter, we reasonably expect 4 or 5 nor'easters to impact our bluff. These bluffs fail from the toe primarily. The waves hit the toe, they catch the material at the toe, the rest of the bluff slopes back. The distance between the top of the bluff and the dwelling is 20 feet, 25 feet. So, and as you can see, the bluff is quite steep. So, it's the best we can do, given the circumstances that are handed to us. We don't have to overbuild anything or, but we simply have to stop that erosion that's currently on the bluff in order to save this house.
Are you, Bruce, are you planning to get the rocks for the gaping wall there? Are you gonna be doing it along the shoreline, coming off the
Yeah,
town
they're coming
road?
off of Holst Road by truck.
There's, will there be any staging materials on the beach or on the town road?
Well, as I said before, we would install, the point is to install the gabion mat first, which becomes in essence the foundation for the, for the armor stone that's put on top.
But you're not planning on storing any material on a town road?
No.
Jeff, when is the meeting with the state?
Next Tuesday.
You'll report back
Yes,
to us?
yes,
Okay.
I'll do that.
Is there a reason why I should be at the meeting?
Probably not, they just wanted an example site, and yours happened to come in as a good example of some
Well,
severe
the erosion line would typically be 25 feet landward of the top of the bluff, which would put it across the guy's
they run through existing buildings.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
That's what we're trying to resolve with the state.
But wherever that line is really is not related to what we're doing because it is a coastal erosion structure.
Right.
So I gather you'd like to see a written formal narrative?
Yes, and then Vinnie Gordiello, the engineer to the planning board, will look at the structural integrity and the engineering
You know, with respect to those
design.
elements of building ordinance revetments, what's very critical is the elevation that you're gonna set at the base of the revetment, as well as how high you're going to build this revetment. And along those lines, I would expect some design criteria established by the applicant identifying why they have set the top of their revetment at such an elevation.
I can answer that.
And again, we want to see the numbers on paper, et cetera, you know, and that's the, you know, it would substantiate why they're, you know, to what elevation they're building it to, and as with respect to the base as well, and that information. I just bring that up because I'm just quickly looking at the section detail right here, which fails to identify what those elevations are relative to mean high water, et cetera. I would expect that information on the drawing.
So we'll prepare a complete review. I wanted to bring this to the board's attention, because some of our chapter 219 permits are not quite as complex as this one.
Okay. Just so you know, your intention to match the elevation of this revetment, the elevation of the adjacent revetment, which is depicted on the surveys in front of you. The idea is just to continue that wall down and build it. Turn it into a lot.
Just capture that in the report that you're gonna submit, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey Bruce, one other question. How well is you're basically copying what your neighbor's done? How well is that working? Is it?
Well, you can see if you go back to the slide, there's two things that are ultimately help the situation. Number one is you go back to the other one. That you want to protect the,
I know.
you want to protect yourself
Yeah.
here. And the only way you can really do that is with a revetment. And you can see that the revetment, the neighbor has protected, so that's left, and that's obviously got vegetation going on it. Second thing you can do is you can revegetate the actual slope itself. So those are really the two items that we're working with. I don't know what else we can reasonably do to reasonably protect the property.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is Riverhead Commons, 780 Old Country Road in Riverhead.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so, everyone should have gotten my report dated October 12th. I also emailed it, this is in addition to putting it in your baskets. We're having a public hearing on November 2nd. I just wanted to have a discussion with the board, to kind of update the board on where we're at with the application. Basically, since the last time you saw the application, it's changed quite a bit. It was previously restaurant and retail shopping center. Now it's going to be all medical professional office. And they're proposing to hook into sewers so they can have more square footage. So there was a 6,000 square foot building, now that's been increased to 15,640 square feet, and it's going to be 2 stories instead of 1 story. So basically, in order to support the increased square footage, they've taken out a wooded area here and replaced that with parking. So that's basically the major changes, and I reviewed the revised plan. I can kind of go through what's remaining. Just to let the board know, this application has been on the table for quite some time. It was actually submitted before the two-stage site plan approval came into being. So this would go to a final approval. So, you know, typically with a preliminary approval, you can still have a few things outstanding, and then you'll go to a final approval. In this case, you're going to go directly to a final approval, and anything outstanding would be part of, you know, before signature of the Mylar.
So the last time you were here, wasn't that long ago? No. Right? We were debating or discussing the crosswalks and the handicap.
Right, I think
entrances.
we've addressed those issues.
But my question is,
Pretty
has
much.
any of that changed with the increased square footage of the buildings and the use?
There was some changes to the amount of handicap stalls that had to be provided to the expanded building, but I believe we've addressed that
Okay.
for the
Right,
most
yeah.
part.
And it's being hooked up to sewers now, so the
Right.
coverage increased. So this building, instead of being a one-story building, became a two-story building. All the rest are one-story.
So, they need to go back to the zoning board because their previous variance for buffering to the Suffolk County Parkland to the east expired. So they have an appointment for that for October 26th. So I don't foresee that's going to be an issue to get that again. One thing, they had previously gotten a relief for a sign that wasn't in compliance, but they haven't applied for that again. So I'm not sure whether they're going to comply or not, but in any event, they'd have to get that variance before they put up a sign that doesn't comply. The lighting plan I reviewed, and there were quite a few issues with that, so I would expect that to be corrected upon the next revision.
Did you guys review this? You
Yes,
got this?
we reviewed that, actually went through everything and actually updated the plans. We haven't resubmitted them yet.
Okay.
So we go through this meeting first, then make a new submission back to Karen.
Okay.
I'll need new building elevations for the change to the two-story building, and there were some other small revisions to the other buildings, and those will need to go back to the ARB. Small little things, you know, an error in the landscape schedule. I did say that there's now quite a wide planting area that shows no plantings here between the curb and the foundation. I think these are boxwoods or something. So I did request that they put more planting in here. So I see that wasn't
All
done.
right.
I did request that they show the slopes for the parallel handicap ramps, just to make sure those were compliant, and to show the detectable warnings at the entry to the handicap access aisle, which I don't see here, but maybe you did that on the detail.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was done. Another thing I had requested was that they show that the, back here at the canopy, there's gonna be an elevated vehicular ramp, and I requested that, it looked like they were showing a curb, so I just requested that they show that as a drop curb.
We also did a blow up of that area too, to show that this is a flush curve in here.
Okay, that's good. I requested that they add a bike rack back that had been deleted. I think it was back here.
So if there's one
Like that here, we put it over here.
Yeah, there was previously like one for each building. So now there's 3. If the board thinks that's acceptable, that's okay? Okay. There was a drafting error where some of the lines didn't match up, which it looks like that's been corrected.
It's a fault of our printer sometimes when the printer prints them out, it just shifts a little bit for some reason.
Yeah, it seems to keep happening, so see what you can do about that. Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff was fairly, insignificant. I do need comments from the fire marshal and the town's consulting engineer, the planning board engineer, because they haven't looked at it since 2015. So I've requested that they both take another look at that. So the last update from the water district, I was told that a key money letter had been obtained from H2M. Did you receive that?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But the flows have changed, right?
Oh, I would believe so, yes, because
So
the
we're
square
gonna have to
footage
do it
has
again, right?
increased.
No,
But I believe they looked at
we've done
the-
it since then.
Since it's been revised?
Yeah, we had
Yes.
forwarded
Yeah,
the
yeah.
new plan to them,
Okay.
so I would hope so. Again, since this project has been around so long, instead of requiring the stormwater pollution prevention plan approval before the resolution, we've told them they can get it done prior to signature of the Mylar. They're gonna need an excavation permit from the town board, work permit from Suffolk County DPW. One of the things we had talked about before was, since they were gonna keep this wooded area back here, the future cross-access would be for the remainder of the property line, but now it's gonna be for the future cross-access for the whole property line. The sewer district superintendent said the parcel is outside the sewer district, so the town board will need to approve a resolution to authorize extension of the district. And I was told that the applicant has paid for preparation of a map and plan. And then, another condition of site plan approval would be that they have to hook up to the sewer district and pay any sewer district fees and charges.
Are you extending it, or is someone else extending it?
No, we're gonna be extending it this way. You know, it's coming, they're in the process of doing it at Ostrander,
Right.
and we're gonna pull it back.
Okay.
Back to here, then to the property.
And just as a reminder, they have been showing the RPZ in a building, so.
You're gonna irrigate with town water, or are you gonna put a
No,
well?
be a well, it can be a well, irrigation well.
Fire hydrant, it's additional, or?
Yes, be a fire hydrant.
The fire marshal had requested one at one point.
Yeah, one of the things that the chief building inspector had brought up was, fire marshal had previously commented that dead-end systems do not perform well as a loop system, and recommendations for an additional hydrant on the west half of the property. But I haven't gotten new comments from the fire marshal, so that should be addressed when he comments again.
Are you okay with the canopy? There was some issues with the canopy.
Yeah, now that they have, now that they're hooking into sewers, that gives them 5% more
They make it.
square footage to play with, yep.
And we cut a lot of canopies back to 5 foot, so not
That
past
too.
the 5 foot area.
Do anything that she mentioned an issue for you guys?
I don't think so. No. We'd like to just try to get it done.
So this may be the final one we go with.
We hope
Can
so.
only
Yes.
hope. We're on revision
Yeah,
43.
I was looking at that.
Yeah, I was looking at dates, right.
Just get me those elevations too, so I can
Oh, yeah.
refer them to the.
I do have elevations, I don't know if you wanna take a quick look at them now, or.
Not
make
now.
a formal
Yeah,
submission?
make a formal
Okay,
submission.
all right, okay.
Because I would assume the board wants the elevations to be approved before we
A
go
or B,
for,
right?
for a resolution.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're pretty quick with that, right, aren't they?
I think so. Just get them in as soon as you can.
Anything else?
Fire marshal been asked to look at it, or?
He's been asked
Many
multiple
ti-
times
Many times.
To comment on it?
to comment on the most recent plan I had. Yeah.
Jefferson? We're waiting for the fire marshal comment. Can we make that happen for them?
We'll make sure they get their comments, yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's it for me.
Well done.
Okay, next item on the agenda is number 4, Grapes and Greens, the cider house on Sound Avenue.
Howdy, gentlemen.
Okay, so we had our public hearing and the public spoke out. And as a result of the public hearing, we had requested a sound study, which you did furnish. Our consulting engineer reviewed that, and there were a few questions with it. Vinnie, do you want to go over those questions that you?
Sure. Does anybody on the board need a copy of that? Because I have extra copies of Vinnie's.
I'll take one, I had one here, but I can't find it. Oh, wait a minute, I found it.
Yep, I have extra, I have extras. Do you need one more at the end? No? Anybody else?
Okay. Basically, a sound report was submitted, to summarize in essence what I envisioned or what the report consisted of. The applicant's architect went out to the site on 3 different occasions. I believe it was a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, at, I believe, mid-afternoon, to, early evening, and took readings at 11 locations adjacent to the site, starting at the easterly property line and worked its way to the southeasterly corner along Osborne Avenue. Readings were taken at each location using a device, recorded and provided in the summary table. The readings range somewhere in the high 40s to high 50s. The readings were taken both with traffic passing by the site as well as no traffic passing by the site. The readings that were taken with the result of traffic passing by the site were in the 80s, 80 decibels. As far as the information that was taken and documented, you know, I have no comment on that. I feel that as far as the way that the report was set up, and with respect to the context of the report, a few other things should have been done. The first thing is that ambient noise levels should have been taken, meaning what is the noise that is happening at those locations when Grapes and Greens is not operating, when it's closed. That could be possibly done in the morning. So in essence, what the impact of noise or what the noise condition is this is our existing situation without this outdoor seating area or without the operations of this facility. That should have been number 1. Number 2, it doesn't specifically say in the report what the model was for this noise study. They said we went there on a given day, this is what the readings were. Well, how many people were in this outdoor patio area? What music were you playing? Anytime one does a sound study, fortunately for these people, the facility exists. So as far as modeling it goes, they can in essence do the model because they can basically put 50 people outside. They can put 100 people outside. As opposed to other applications that this board has seen where one needs to, in essence, create the model, make estimates as far as what these decibel levels potentially would be at the source. So within the report, this should have been spelled out to the board to get a fair representation of what these levels represented. Were there 2 people out there, or were there 100 people As far as the equipment used, you know, it'd be nice to know what device you used, the experience of the person on the instrument. Not that these things are not very, I mean, they're very user-friendly, don't get me wrong, but again, it kind of just substantiates the levels that you were taking and their experience with the device and how it's calibrated, et cetera. Weather conditions, that's another thing that should basically be in the report, because obviously, there's a source of where the noise or sound is coming from, and you're located at point B. Well, is the wind behind you blowing towards it, or is the wind there going away from you? Again, these are things that should be identified for each day relative to when the readings were being taken. The last thing that I just wanted to point out, in the cover letter, it makes mention to a decibel level of 82 dBA. And it's almost implied in the cover letter that that's what they believe ordinances, the town ordinances, as far as what the maximum permissible, or it should actually is the average permissible level pursuant to the code. I just wanted to clarify, that is not the case. Our code speaks specifically with respect to uses where the source generatorship is and where the readings or where the adjacent property would be relative to that requirement. And with respect to time of the day, if it's between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., if your source is from a commercial site and you're neighboring a residential use, that decibel level would be 65 dBA, and 50 would be from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. Actually, that's a typo in my memo, it should be 60.
60.
So in the last bullet, instead of 65, that should be 65 and 60. Practically speaking, and just to kind of give you what decibel levels are and how they vary, and obviously frequency has a lot to do with it. But in a nutshell, if two people were having a conversation and they were basically 3 to 5 feet apart from each other, and you were to take a reading 5 feet away from them, that decibel level could be anywhere from 50 to 60 dBAs. So I'm just trying to give you, practically speaking, you know, what all these numbers basically mean. Again, frequency has a play on it as well. But again, I think that the items that I've identified here in the report, if the information and data that's presented to us, it really should incorporate this information as well to kind of give us a complete, comprehensive understanding as far as what these levels represent.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure, do you guys want to comment on that?
I do,
Okay.
yeah. I appreciate the engineer's comments, and I understand his perspective, but I think from our perspective, this was not a formally requested study that was requested of us. This arose voluntarily on our side. We had obviously all been at the public hearing, and we heard the main concern expressed was the potential noise. And while we know that many of you had visited the site, seen it in operation, see the speakers, and understand that we're talking about backyard speakers in a 7-acre parcel, we heard that criticism had among ourselves been discussing whether or not that would be required. And then I also had a conversation with staff where it was explained to me that it was not being required of us, but that it might be helpful if you had some additional information with that regard. So I understand the project engineer's comments and his analysis as though this was a formal study that was being done pursuant to some requirement. That's not what we set out to do. What we set out to do here was to give you some numerical values to tie your own observations of what we're talking about. And that's what we think we did. I mean, we had our architecture firm, who, by the way, has done this exact same thing with the town of Islip, and the exact same type of report, and it had been accepted by that planning board, John?
Yes.
in the past, and that's why we proceeded this way, because they were familiar with the equipment and how to do it. And we had them go on 3 separate occasions, 360 degrees.
By request on a Saturday, the busiest day of the week,
Yeah.
so that we could show what it's like the busiest day of the week. Because quite frankly, the architects weren't happy about coming out on a Saturday afternoon. But
So, and so the point was to give you all a sense for the baseline. And I understand that, you know, if we were doing this, if this was gonna be, you know, I'm looking at it from a litigator, if this was gonna be, if we were calibrating equipment for a criminal prosecution, okay, that's a different idea. But what we were trying to do is give you a baseline of what the noises, what the level was on a typical operation over 3 separate days. And if you look at those, that analysis, they are routinely right at about 50, sometimes a little bit above, sometimes below.
Well,
Keep in mind-
they're all below the 60 decibels from 8 PM to 7 AM, and these were all done during the daytime, and they're all below the 65 level from 7 AM to 8 PM.
And keep in mind also. that-
Without the traffic.
Right,
We
without the
can't
traffic.
control the traffic situation.
And keep in mind also that this facility has already self-limited their hours. So 90% of their operating hours are on that higher end. They've agreed to close themselves by 9. So 8 PM and lower, it's that 65 decibel value, we're well under that. And we're even under the you know, the lower standard or the heightened standards, depending on how you look at it, for the later time. So I just wanna, I don't take issue, I understand what the engineer is saying, and if this had been a formally requested, you know, requirement, okay. But that's not what this was. This was really to give you guys a baseline, so you can orient yourselves to the basic numbers, and understand and by the way, this was at max capacity of the volume. I know that's not reflected on the face of this, but the system was cranked up. It was our ordinary operating, including our typical Saturday night crowd, that it was done at, and, you know, we didn't take a wind direction, but we did a 360 of all the way around. It's the typical music being played. It was over about a 40-minute period if you look at these things. And I'm sort of skipping the obvious, which is, the point of this study was to show you that these speakers are really not capable of, it's not a soundstage. It can't blast out music. It is background music for an outdoor area. That's as far as it can go. And keep in mind, at all times, we are, I think it's sort of redundant, but we are covenanting in our site plan that we're not going to operate outside of the noise limits. It's sort of redundant because the town code already governs that. So the point of this study was really just to show you the capacity of these speakers. They can't do much damage. They can't get that loud. They are what they are. So, you know, like again, I said, I understand the engineer's comments, but that's not what this was for.
And if I may, I could have gotten some of the information that was, we didn't know about this report, which was from October 16th till 11:45 today. So I could have had some of those answers and expedited this faster. I mean, what we're gonna do is go on Google Weather and find out what the weather was. I mean, it's not a huge, I don't think it will add anything to the puzzle. But I think we kind of show you the spirit of it. We tried to do it, we ordered that request right after the last meeting. We delivered it, and we kept hearing it. Nobody has the report, and I didn't know why nobody had the report. So that's why I hand delivered, you know, so.
So we appreciate you doing the report and getting it in. You know, any report from a engineering professional or architect, I mean, you could take the same data and have it interpreted 2 different ways. So, you know, fortunately, we go by our people who advise this board, but I'd like to put aside, just for a minute, this sound study that was done. Just kind of put that on the side for a minute. After the last public hearing, I had asked staff to do a fairly comprehensive review of all the properties along the historic corridor of Sound Avenue, specifically to see if anyone else, and you had named a few in previous work sessions, and I don't want to name them out, I don't think it's fair to do that today, to see if anyone else had approval for any type of outdoor music along Sound Avenue in the historic corridor. And it came back that no one along Sound Avenue in the historic corridor has approval to play any type of outdoor music. So, you know, for me, and based on the public comments, it's very difficult for me to get past that point. For the outdoor music, we'll get to the other things in front of us today, but the sound study aside, that's difficult for me, and please, the rest of the board weigh in if you agree or disagree.
It's a difficult situation. The neighbors voiced their opinion. To look at the general area, and there's a lot of residential there, okay? We can get into wind direction, we can get into, sound carrying over a specific, distance, but, I mean, the neighbors.
Respectfully, some of those neighbors were miles away, and one gentleman was from Aberquan that had 2 hearing aids.
No, I understand, but, for no one else to have approval along the historic corridor of Sound Avenue, you'd be the first, and, it's.
Well, we would not- certainly not
they
be the
all
first
have
to be
it, though.
playing music.
No,
That-
but
That's
and-
kind of the issue.
And that, I figured you would say that, and I said it at the public hearing, and the public didn't like it, and pretty much called me out on it, that we don't do enforcement. So I'm gonna tell you the same thing, we don't do enforcement. So, yeah, do we know and you know that everybody else, not everybody, but several others are playing music and having events? I can tell you that none of them have approval to do it, and none of them got a special permit to do it. So this one part of your revised application is very difficult for us.
Can I just ask for education purposes, what's the west end of the historic Sound Avenue corridor, and what's the east end? What are the points of reference?
From the town line on the east
Town line to town line,
to the, where it intersects in Wading River.
basically the town line.
Town line to town line.
Pretty close to the new tourist, thing on Sun Avenue is the end of it.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so, anything else? Do you,
No, if they wanted to come build this big building there, this monstrosity that's been there since I've been a kid, it's not something I would approve of. But I think it's a great business. I think that Riverhead is now getting some positive feedback where, except for when I was small in Riverhead, Riverhead usually has a negative connotation. And Sound Avenue, wineries, beer, apple, agritourism, they're starting to give Riverhead a positive look and a positive image, and I'm for it. And as far as the music, I would still go with no live music outside, but a couple of speakers outside, in my opinion, when everyone else has bands and concerts and everything else going, would be okay. And I just don't think he should be singled out as the only guy not to be able to have music. He's asking for permission, where everyone else just went and did it. That's just my opinion.
okay.
We have gone to great lengths, I don't know if, it's been mentioned in the past about people looking at our website. I would love for you folks to look through our website in the last 6 or 8 weeks, how many people are complaining that we will not take buses, we will not take limos late in the afternoon with all the drunks and the whole thing. We've not had one incident. We've listened very well to the community over the last 3 years, and I think we've demonstrated that what we said we were gonna do, we are doing.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it's a great fit with Sound Avenue. I think it's a first-class operation. The property is a tremendous improvement. It fits with the, agricultural tourism of Sound Avenue. Whether people like it or not, Sound Avenue is a tourist attraction, especially this time of the year, so I think you've done a great job. It's just, the outdoor music is difficult for me, because of the staff research that was done. I wasn't aware of that. I thought that many of the other ones had approval. So, if we could just sit with that and get into the rest of them, and then we'll
Great.
try and move forward here today.
I'm not in favor of the outside music myself.
And I would say this also.
Sorry?
I would say this also. You had some limousines parking on Baywood.
I'm sorry, we had,
You had some
Limousines
limousines parking on Baywood.
I can't control.
I
where they park.
understand, and I would just.
But we don't allow them
I know you
in our
don't.
parking
I know
lot.
you don't.
I have double security now, 2 people. We just added all new cameras around the back because they sneak around, and the closing of the famous whatever that is, I've never been there. Like-
They pay zero
Forget-
attention to those non-parking signs.
No,
parking,
I understand that, but
One in
in
Southwood.
fairness, and hopefully it's gonna come up, I'm also in trouble for adding more parking spaces, okay? isn't that what everybody wanted?
No, we'll-
Enough parking on my property?
We'll get to that one.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. So the next item that was on the revised plan was the kitchen. Due to the moving of the freezers, I guess it expanded the square footage of the kitchen and also the ovens that were exchanged as a result of construction. You didn't want to penetrate the roof and put an Ansel system in. I have no problem with that at all. You know, we see these things all the time from other projects. You know, you don't know until you start doing the work, and to me, it's minor in nature.
I appreciate that you note that it was a substitution, not addition.
Right.
It wasn't like they added.
Right. Okay, is the rest of the board okay with that one?
Yep.
The landscaping, which includes the perimeter wall, the landscaping as-built, and the removal of the eastern buffer. You had mentioned that the neighbor who is, landscape nursery had noticed that the shrubs were diseased, and you consulted him, and he suggested that they be removed so you don't infect his
He actually-
stock.
Mr. Warner actually consulted my, yeah. And that's when we ended up buying the new trees from Mr. Warner as well.
Right, so, to me, and I looked at it, I think it looks really nice. I don't have a problem with the landscaping change or the buffer.
No problem.
Okay, the parking spaces. You had mentioned about the parking spaces, you added parking, and I think the only question was,
And again, I don't know the legal definition. There were doors that were gonna be used for trucks to park. Okay, I donated 20,000 square feet to Island Harvest. They're not parking any trucks there. Okay, so all the parking space, all the space where trucks were gonna drive, I asked the gentleman to stripe it so it would create something. Unfortunately, they weren't on the original plan.
Right.
And the gentleman who came out to stripe at that time usually does the town of Islip. And I don't know why the difference is in the
Right.
town of here. So I could paint them all black and overcome it, and we'll have 50 less parking spaces. But I thought everybody wanted more parking spaces.
I think it's the issue of the size.
Yeah, the size.
Town code
Well,
is 10
there's
by 20,
And ours are like, I think,
probably 9 by 18.
9 by
18.
yes.
We don't have the authority to.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
So I'll either, whatever you want me to do, I'll paint them black and get my,
it would either be a variance or restripe them.
John, it's not just the additional spaces, it's all the spaces, because everything was restriped, so all the spaces would have to be 10 by 20 in the entire parking lot, or we need to get a variance.
Forget the variance.
whatever I can do to make it happen. So if I have to paint them black, I'll paint them black. I have no problem. I really can't do this much.
Because I didn't, when I went out the first time and noticed, the sizes, I didn't do this side, I didn't measure all of them, so. They would all have to be 10 by 20, so again, I didn't measure all of them.
We don't have the authority to
No,
grant.
I understand. And I'm not asking, I just want to tell you, it wasn't because I
So
wanted
we either
to.
need to apply for the variance of the existing spaces that are non-conforming with code, or
Restripe everything.
restripe them.
Right.
Or just remove them. If they're not, anything that's non-compliant with code, either we restripe them to be compliant, apply for a variance for the non-compliance, or just black them out.
But I
and
think
take
you're
them
hearing
out.
from the board,
They
they want the
prefer us.
additional spaces, but they just have to be the 10 by 20s.
It sounds like you need them.
So just have to restripe them to be, I think you just have to.
Do I really need them? No, we don't really need, here's what happens, I haven't had any issues of people parking off my property. So, and I think we've been through the busy season, but listen, would I like them? Yes, because it's more convenient.
I think you're hearing from the board, they want the spaces, but they just need to be 10 by 20.
The board would prefer 10 by 20 restriped spaces.
Well, it's not,
Prefer
yeah,
it's
it's
the town
not,
code.
yeah.
Yeah, you guys either eliminate it or restripe,
That's-
one or the other, or get a
There was
variance.
no
yeah.
intent
Yeah.
to stick it extra parking.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have the outdoor seating area and the material of the floor out there. You had indicated that you do educational tours of the different types
People
of
outside.
apple species, and it was an area where people meet. And I guess people go out there for fresh air or whatever during your limited operating hours, so.
Years ago, when we were talking about this project and there was public opposition, they were talking about there'll be people walking all along Sound Avenue, so my thought was to isolate it to that area. We had always thought about people going out to that area. So that's when I added in the extra bushes and tried to make it better for that. And again, not to repeat myself, I did go to town hall and I asked about putting pavers in. I was told I didn't need a permit. And so we ordered them from the guy in town, and we had them put in. And then we got hit with a stop work order, and I said, look, I'll pay for the permit. They said, no, you have an open site plan, so you can't do it, so I picked them all up. So I'm just want to clarify again why.
So
why
your
not?
intention would be to put those back down?
Yes, because it's a problem when it rains. It's
No, I
like
know,
On the
it's-
south side of that building, you know, it's on that
You
side
have
of
that
the
turf
building.
carpet down, right?
Yeah, exactly, I just put it down, AstroTurf did.
Okay. I don't have an issue with the outdoor seating area or putting the brick pavers back down. The rest of the board have any problem with that? I think it looks nice. Okay. So I think that covers everything that was on the revised plan, and,
There was a question
Oh,
about,
and don't forget the 2-foot perimeter wall.
that's on you.
yeah, we covered that.
You okay with that?
Yes.
Just one comment with the engineer had made with regard to the maximum height of exterior lighting. I just want to clarify what area he was referencing. Is that the lighting that's going to be over the patio area and make sure it's the grade?
It's a detail on your site plan drawing that identifies that the maximum permitted height of a light fixture is 20 feet.
Oh, I see.
That's
Oh.
not accurate.
Oh, okay, so,
It's actually 16 feet.
so it wasn't an indication that there are lights that are above the 16? It was just-
I don't know if that's the case.
Oh,
or not.
Okay, okay. I thank you.
But when we go out to a final inspection, we measure, we just make sure they're 16.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
It's supposed to be under 16 feet? Is that what
Number
it is?
16.
So we put it again.
So it appears that a majority of the board is okay with all of your proposed revisions with the exception of the outdoor speakers. So we could move forward with a resolution at the next meeting detailing this information. And it sounds like it shouldn't be a problem, or we could bring it to a vote as you have originally proposed it, which doesn't seem positive today with the outdoor speakers.
Okay.
Even though we said we were gonna live within town guidelines of the sound. So because we asked for permission, we're told we can't put sound outside. By the way, I understand, I'm not trying to be smart.
It's just a
By the way,
difficult,
maybe I am.
no, it's just difficult because,
I
you know, you had pointed out that, you know, everybody else is doing it, and we researched that.
And
And
everybody else is doing it.
they're doing it, I mean, I hear it, I drive by there, I live in the
You
area.
know what kills me, the new
And-
brewery, by the way, I hope everybody's successful. But the new brewery that just opened, by the way, he's selling us cider, I hope he's successful
Where is he?
forever. Right down the block from me on Sound Avenue, and he's having beer
Oh,
festivals.
Jamesport.
And by the way, I'm happy, but they're having beer festivals outside, and I wasn't allowed to do anything, and I'm fine, because I asked, and I agreed to doing all those other things.
Is the town in
One
litigation?
special event permit,
One special event permit?
yeah, and then he's got a condition saying no outdoor music.
So it's,
The only person-
again,
the only
you know-
person-
By the way, I really don't, I'm not sliding, they're very nice people.
no, I understand. And,
I'm
you know,
not sliding.
The public didn't like when I said we don't do enforcement at the public hearing, and
Right,
it same holds true with what we're kind of
There's a
sticking to
fact, you
here.
don't
It's just gonna become,
The
I can see.
neighbors have limos parking in front of it, they should call the police. and let them
No,
get
I
rid of it.
agree, I told
Yeah.
Jody that.
He's gotta compete, and, you know, it's a
Yeah.
business, everybody's got their business. And
Right.
he's the only one in town who's explicitly told not to do music, and everybody else has just been.
No, they were told.
They're told not to, they just do
Okay.
it, yeah.
And we
How's
are
that
in
work?
litigation with one
They
of
just do it, well,
Maybe I should
again,
take a
we,
lesson.
Yeah, why not the police?
I'm sorry, I don't, listen, you guys have been nothing but gentlemen.
Okay, so essentially, if we move forward with removing the outdoor speakers, it's prepared to go to resolution, and it looks like a positive vote. If you want to insist otherwise, John,
we'll still bring it to a
we'll
vote,
still
but
do a vote, but it looks like it may not go through. So it's really a decision you need to make.
You don't have to
Let's
make it
put-
right now.
Yeah,
Just
just
let's move
let-
forward.
Let staff know. and-
Let him know, you know, give us at least a
All
week
right.
before our next meeting, so he could
When is
prepare
the
it and you
next
could
meeting?
review it.
What is that? It's
November
first
second.
Thursday in
November 2nd.
November 2nd?
Okay?
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving right along.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have,
press.
Okay.
okay, the next item on the agenda is 836 East Main Street. How are you?
Hi, good, so,
Good, thank you.
hey.
All right. We're here to have further discussion about the proposed development on 836 Main Street. When we had the public hearing last time, there was significant input from the neighborhood that they did not want the entrance on Prospect. They thought that was gonna lead to an increase on traffic on Prospect. We had left off that we were gonna wait to receive comments from DOT. I received comments from DOT and further spoke with the engineer on the phone. In short, there's nothing that DOT says that they have to take entrance on Prospect. So if the board feels that it's appropriate, you know, we could ask that the entrance be on Prospect, however, there would be some more engineering stuff. There was a bus stop on Main Street that was unaccounted for in the site plan that the DOT engineer had made note of. So we're just here to see what the board feels is appropriate and to direct the applicant as to how to proceed.
Well,
There's a couple of speakers that
Yeah.
definitely didn't.
yeah, so, same situation. The immediate community came out and really urged the board to make the entrance and exit on East Main Street rather than Prospect Place, so we didn't disturb, you know, their peaceful community and concern for their children.
Now, if you recall, we did have entrances on both, and we were directed to put it on Prospect by the board. You know, some of the things they said was, and we met with them afterwards out in the hall, and they did calm down as far as what we were telling them, you know, as far as you know, some of the things they were talking about is that we were directly opposite residential homes. We're not. This is the nearest driveway, which is to the commercial building over here. The homes start back here. You know, one of the things we wanted to do was to preserve the large trees along the edge of the road. If we bring out our curb cut here, we're going to lose these, this one and these also for the view. When I talked to the engineer, I also talked to the engineer at DOT, and his concern was the visibility coming out in this area, what we'd have to do. He tended to imply that it was more on a turn than what it actually is. But there is visibility problems as opposed to over in Prospect. As Greg said, there would be significant changes in the site layout. It would have to be changed around entirely. You know, if you look here, we have almost a 4-foot drop between these two. It's 3+ feet between the top of this curb and the top of this curb out here. So the whole parking would have to be raised, the whole building would have to be raised as shown. You know, from a land use standpoint, and you know, the DOT, from a land use standpoint, I think the best access is off of Prospect, because you're taking it off of the main drag. I did talk to the engineer also from DOT. His reaction was, well, we're not gonna tell you where to put it, or we'll tell the town where to put it. You know, he implied that they would prefer it being off of Prospect, but he wouldn't tell, you know, whatever the town wants, that's what they would have to grant you, us permits to access off of Main Street. So it's not like they wouldn't forbid it, but from their standpoint, they would prefer it being off of the side street and taking all traffic off of the road. You know, recognizing that there will be a change in the area. I don't think the general public, people using this site will go down Prospect and affect the homes down there. It makes, you know, the most direct route for most places is to head out onto Main Street. Even if we had access off here and people were going to use Prospect, they would be going down there anyway. So, you know, as I said, we spoke with the residents outside in the hallway after our hearing, and at first there was a lot of animosity, and then they listened and we talked to them, and they seemed to understand where we were coming from and what we're looking to do, and that we're not looking to download onto the Prospect or to create a situation there, but Ford has.
I don't disagree with what you're telling us, but unfortunately, it wasn't on the public record.
Right.
So we really can't consider any conversation that took place outside of the public hearing.
Stan, my thought on it is, I think it's good planning to come on Prospect, but I do think it will change the character of the neighborhood, and we have to be very careful not to do that. So as much as it's probably not gonna be convenient for the applicant, I think it should be on Main Street. And we also had concerns about the backside, fencing and plantings along the western.
The north or
The north, the north, this is against the salon here.
Okay, no, the backside.
Yeah, well, that's,
There's a
at the
residential
hearing,
right there.
agreed with you as far as putting up the slats rather
Okay.
than the fence, and we have the arborvitae running all the way through.
Okay. I know it's not gonna be convenient, but right now it's still ink on paper. It's still changeable. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, we had 3 local residents speak about concern of safety for the children who play in the neighborhood and the increased traffic on Prospect, so I would agree with Ed. That's why we have public hearings.
Is it Attorney Lisa Ross, was one of the speakers, I believe?
Yeah, from,
That's a change.
Essex, Bill Essex office.
I think a harder look at it.
Was there anything else on this, or just
No,
basically the
that
entrance?
was just the entrance. I mean, I think we kind of hammered everything else out pretty much, just how the redesign and the re-engineer of the entrance and whatever they gotta do on 25 to comply with DOT.
I think it's easier for the whole project to move forward if we just move to 25. I mean, it's an inconvenience.
I'll speak to my client again, I can't make decisions for my client, but.
Well, I mean, if he does agree to do a redesign, I mean, bring it in and we'll have you right back and try to move it along for you.
Okay. So that's, the board wants to see it redesigned with the entrance out onto.
25.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's mine.
Oh, sorry.
Nice project.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have another one coming in shortly, too.
Where's that?
On Pulaski and Osborne,
Okay.
similar type of thing. I met with some of the board members on that for preliminary layout, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Hopefully that one will go.
Yeah. Okay, next item is 836 East Main Street.
Oh, great rock.
Oh, I'm sorry, we just did that, I checked it off.
Yeah.
Number 6, Great Rock Clubhouse Edition.
Michael Cox, he's one of the owners, he's
Yeah,
the
how are you?
attorney for the golf course now, and of course Doug from Young and Young is here, Tommy was here before.
Owner and attorney?
Yes, sir.
Does this bother you that I'm behind?
No.
As you know, this is a continuation of a site plan that was filed years ago, where there was some interruption with some litigation, which was withdrawn. And the new owners want to pick up where it was left off, the same design, the same site plan. And this latest version reflects the changes from a a letter dated from Karen on November 18th. Oh, no, that's in the 10th. We received a review, a preliminary review in January of this year, and then this reflects the changes that we had to make and the new application we had to file. We had the wrong form and stuff like that. So, and then Greg was assigned the review of the project. That's where we are right now.
All right, so what they're looking to do, and as Mr. Przanowski said, this application's kind of been floating around since 2010. Long backstory, I kind of picked up the pieces and kind of put everything together. So what I did is I gave you a copy of Karen's memo to give you some of the backstory, and then I kind of supplemented, with my review. What the applicant is looking to do is construct a 2-story clubhouse addition at the Great Rock Golf Course in Wading River. The proposed clubhouse would have a first floor of 6,588 square feet and a basement with an area of 6,230 square feet. As Vic said, we've received plans, staff did SECRA analysis on it. It's an unlisted action with the planning board recommended to be lead agency. Coordinated review is not recommended for this project. There were several environmental concerns identified during the SECRA review. They include, now, the applicant has stated that the basement of the proposed clubhouse addition will be used to store electric golf carts.
Gas golf carts.
Gas golf carts?
Yes.
All right, I was under the impression they were electric. What's that? Yeah. All right, so that'll change there may still be, that'll change comments from the fire marshal and the building department in terms of storage of, flammable, combustible materials, I'm sure. One of the things during SECRA was also the needs and benefits of the action, a significant increase in the clubhouse size with the potential for non-golf related catering events. One of the site plan approval conditions for the original clubhouse was that there should be no non-golf related catering. And it just seems that an addition that's going to roughly double the size of the existing clubhouse could leave room for, non-golf related catering. One of the questions was how would this be controlled and how would we implement and control that it's not used for non-golf related catering. There were some issues with the use of on-site trailers, which on the site plan, you've got the clubhouse back here, the proposed addition. There's a trailer back here, which is used as office and irrigation controls for the pumps on the property. And there's also a trailer back here, which is used for pesticide storage. The site plan proposes relocating this pesticide trailer to comply with DEC and Suffolk County Department of Health regulations for where pesticides can be stored. It's noted that if these trailers are going to be used on a permanent basis, they need to be constructed and comply with New York State building codes. They should be included in floor area ratios when calculating the FAR for the site plan.
The one trailer is, once the addition is approved and constructed, we're going to eliminate that trailer.
Meaning the irrigation control trailer?
Right. That was always the plan. Because now we'll have more storage in the original building, and that's where the maintenance, command and control will go, and the manager of the golf course will go.
All right, again, we need to clarify the use of the basement. I'll wait for fire marshal comments regarding storage of stuff in the basement. Parking on the site plan proposes to provide 201 parking stalls. Used in the calculations for the parking was the existing golf course, the 149-seat restaurant, retail, driving range, and the irrigation trailer was calculated as office space. The one thing that was missing in the calculations was the basement being used as storage. I believe if you calculate the basement as storage, it only requires 6 additional spaces, which they would still comply on that, but it should be shown in the calculations. There was something to note about the buffering with the residential properties. In this area right here on the site plan, you've got houses here to, I guess, the northeast. The applicants are proposing a row of white pine. Proposing a row of white pine There's no additional, sound tenement measurements, no walls or anything like that. So the board might want to consider if there's any additional measures that would be appropriate to try to control sound with the neighboring properties.
The purpose of this project is to eliminate the controversy, or at the time, because we haven't had any problems since then, of the tent operating for our golf-related activities, tournament. So, for the new members of the board, we had signed the stipulation of agreement, which is transferred to the new property owners, and it's all spelled out in the stipulation of agreement where we were, as part of the agreement, we were to apply for a hard expansion of the facility so we could put all our golf tournaments inside the building and to substitute for the tent. The square footage, just so you know, of the actual dining area is the same exact square footage of the tent, because that was the agreement we made. The additional square footage is for restrooms and other handicap ramps and things like that that are ancillary to that. So that's why it's up to whatever, 6,200 or 7,200 square feet, but the dining room itself is about 4,100 square feet, which matches the tent.
Tent and back, will be gone.
Exactly, right.
When I was reviewing the lighting plan says that there's gonna be 5 proposed pole-mounted lights. 2 of them were easily identifiable on the plan. I didn't exactly see where the other 3 were. So, I mean, that's something simple that can just be pulled. Yeah. The application is also gonna legalize a halfway house, which was constructed on the property, which has restrooms and a snack bar. It was built with a building permit, but it never received a C of O. So we're just gonna include that on the site plan here to legalize that.
But it did have a temporary, right?
Correct.
Yes. Also, the little house on the prairie, the little pump house, I took pictures of that, that's gonna be put on the site plan too. We're trying to capture, Mr. Chairman, all the anomalies of the golf, and get it done for once and for all, so.
There were several issues that were addressed in 2011 with regards to open space and, non-disturbance buffers, which I believe have been addressed on these most current revisions.
And it's in the covenants that we have to provide a updated title report, which it's all in there, it's all recorded.
Yeah, we did receive an updated title report. We received an email from the town attorney's office. They didn't find anything that would restrict the proposed site plan, but they did note, the limited recreational uses on the property, the non-golf related catering.
Which is already a covenant that's been filed since 1995, so it's there already.
Town's consulting engineer, back in 2011, had reviewed the plans. At that time, he had recommended approval of it. There was one comment in the previous report that they just still need to finalize the ARB approval. They had made some small changes to the roof that just needed to get final okay from the ARB, which is easy enough for the applicant to receive.
And we already have preliminary approval from the Suffolk County Health Department. It's an open file because when the site plan reviews process stopped, we just had to get some finalized secret from the town, but it's, Tommy just called today, it's an open file. All we have to do is just finishing up with our, the final portion of the application. The application was made in 2011, so we have preliminary health department approval for our septic system and drainage, which is on here. Because we need that to get the building permit.
That was from 2007, you said?
No, 11.
11.
Yeah.
They just kept it open.
Kept it open?
Needs a secret determination. That's
Okay.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, as I spoke to you on the phone today, we would request that we move up this public hearing to November 2nd, and checking with the staff and the town clerk, we could publish the notice in Newsday, which will meet the 10-day requirement. and I'll be able to get the certified letters out on Monday, which will give us the 10-day window that we need, and we'd really appreciate it, because we're on a little bit of time strain here, so we can meet the proper notice of the 10-day notice. If you guys would consider changing, amending the resolution to November 2nd instead of December 7th, give us an extra 30 days to get this wrapped up so we can, because we're under a little pressure from our lending institution, you know, what's going on.
That's fine. I just would caution, you know, we would, you know, consider November 2nd. You know, we're under the assumption that everything will be filed and posted properly and in the right time.
It has to be, otherwise you won't have the hearing, because I
So,
went through that before, so.
Just make sure all that's in order
Yes.
for November 2nd,
Yep.
that you submit it to the secretary before the
Yep.
meeting. And I would suggest that you also take pictures with a timestamp of the postings
Okay.
on the properties.
Yeah, of the signs that have to post the property. Sure. Yeah, we definitely can meet the publication notice, because that's a daily Newsday's a daily newspaper, so.
Do you recite Newsday in the resolution, or do you recite the news review?
I think Newsday is one of the officials.
Paper, but just so
We
you're-
could make sure we add it.
Just be sure that the resolution says post in the Newsday, and then I pick the edition date from by, what day does it have to be
Well,
posted?
today
Does
is
it have to be published on-
Thursday, so it's gotta be in there by Monday. I gotta call like tomorrow to
Is-
put the
is
notice in.
applicant paying that expense?
We'll pay the
Yeah.
expense,
It's-
we're gonna pay the expense.
in the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah, because you know, it's News Review is the paper, but then Newsday is an official paper.
Yeah.
And
No,
Town
but
Clerk's
there's
informed.
no problem with that.
Yeah.
It's your choice. It's an official paper of the town.
Okay.
It's just, usually your resolution says in the
22.
substation.
Yeah, right.
We're just gonna now say the,
So if it's in by the
Well,
22nd?
I would say, yeah, by the,
your deadline,
whatever,
for
it's
the
gotta be
legal
by,
is 2 or 3 days ahead of.
right, so I think we're gonna call,
First thing
tomorrow.
tomorrow, okay.
Right, we're gonna try to get it in tomorrow, probably for Saturday or Sunday.
Okay.
Daily news, I don't know what their deadline, I've been out of the newspaper business for a while, so, but their deadlines are, you know, usually classified, you can get them in legal notices, they might have a different deadline in classifieds.
Okay. Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
No, I didn't bring any, that's
more
more
copies
copies
of this,
and
and
I
I
know what to do with it.
I actually had one.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had given you guys the plan, it was in your inbox like end of September, beginning of October,
I
so I
had
do
it.
apologize about
I
that.
had it. Okay, next item on the agenda, number 7, is S-Power. For solar facility on Edwards Avenue, Calverton.
Okay. Chairman, this is the,
Are they here?
I believe, representatives here?
You want to come up? Good.
Good afternoon.
We got you on.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is the State Environmental Quality Review Act finding statement that would conclude the SEQR process, but does not conclude the entire application's review. I know this came on a little bit later than last Friday, so I'd like to just point out a few components of both the resolution and the finding statement to assist the board. I think the most salient points might be on page 2 of the resolution, in the first resolve. The planning board, as lead agency pursuant to SEQR, will be adopting a positive finding statement. This determines the action as proposed avoids, or to the extent practicable by mitigating measures, will have a minimal adverse environmental impact statement. And the second resolve is that the planning board, having jurisdiction of the subdivision and site plan review for the proposed action will, and the town board over its special permit review, will still have an opportunity to, through site plan, impose any other covenants, restrictions, operational requirements as would be necessary. We believe we've covered all of those through the environmental review process, but those are not actually added to the site plan until such time that this board decides that that's where they're gonna go.
So we're being asked to approve the finding statement today, and is there a specific timeline that has to happen?
Yes, sir. The final environmental impact statement was accepted by this board through resolution, I believe, on the 20th or 21st. 21st. You have a maximum 30-day window. I think we were in day 28, if my math was right, and the next board meeting would push us outside that date. And I believe the finding statement, together with the resolution, is quite comprehensive. It recites the entire secret history, as well as, I think, one of the issues that we've worked through on the Gentai line itself. It states that this Gentai line conduit and access is solely for this particular facility. And then when it comes to the actual terms and conditions of the easements and the crossing of Edwards Avenue, those negotiations really can't be initiated until SEQRA is completed, but all of those conditions will be boxed up into the easement for crossing Edwards, with descriptions on the meets and bounds handled through the town attorney's office. So you'll actually see that as part of your site plan review process to move it through final.
So we had revised the resolution, I think it was the second whereas. Did you see that, Chris?
No, I didn't see this in today's
It was on-
resolution?
It was on the second page.
Second page.
Second page, second whereas.
Additional seeker review. If we elect to go add another connection through this easement, is that correct?
That's fine.
Yep.
Everyone should also understand with regard to that whereas, that if there are any substantive changes that evolve during site plan or the easement, SEQRA never really ends. A supplemental EIS might be required, a supplemental finding statement. So this gets us through the end of this book, but if there are significant changes that are identified or requested, then we'll go to volume 2 and open the process up again.
We just don't want Encyclopedia Britannica, okay?
So you have no objections to the way the resolution's written, right?
No.
No, I see, I understand what you're trying to do, and we're not trying to game
No,
the.
we're not trying to. And Jeff did that, there were additions made to the findings that are consistent with this same concept on pages 3 and number 6 in the growth inducement section. So we acknowledge those changes,
Okay.
those additions.
All right, so we will bring it up under the resolution. All right, thank you. Okay, before we bring up the resolutions, does anyone from the public want to address the board on the resolutions at this time? Just on the resolutions?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Just state your name for the record, please.
Yes. Sid Bale, President of Wading River Civic Association. It's the resolution connected with the Great Rock Clubhouse addition. I guess I'm asking for a clarification. In the presentation, there was reference to a stipulation agreement. Can you tell me the date of that stipulation agreement?
Do you know what the date was?
I can find out. I don't have that.
You don't have that?
Did he reference a date when he was speaking?
Vic did not know.
He didn't? Somebody mentioned
No?
a date.
I mean, I can look now.
A long time ago, okay. Well, all right, the reason for the question is, one document that I have from the planning department in 2012 was evaluating a similar proposal by the previous owner of Great Rock to build, to expand. And there was an opinion rendered by the then planning director, Rick Hanley, and the findings were the subject property is currently regulated under the RB zoning use district, which provides for a golf course as a specially permitted use. Second, the Riverhead Town Board has not issued a special permit for golf course use on the premises. And third, the golf course use is considered to be a non-conforming use. And then in the decision, it says the applicant's site plan application seeks to expand a non-conforming use. Pursuant to section 108-51 of the Riverhead Town Code, expansion of a non-conforming use requires a special permit. Pursuant to section 26-20 of the Riverhead Town Code, the undersigned is the zoning officer for the site plan review. Pursuant to this authority, the undersigned finds the planning board does not have jurisdiction to grant the applicant, and the application is therefore denied. Accordingly, the applicant is hereby referred to the town board to seek a special permit use for the expansion of the non-conforming use. Okay. So I'm just trying to tie things together. There's probably an explanation here.
What I would suggest, we have a public hearing scheduled. You've made it part of the record. We will ask the applicant and our staff to answer those questions. I mean, I don't have it
Would
at
you
my...
like this copy of that? I would think that the planning board
Sure.
would have had this.
I don't have it in front of me today. That's all I can...
Very good. Submit it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Should I give it to the attorney?
Attorney.
Okay.
Just get that in.
Field commission.
Been downgraded. Good. Sorry,
Okay,
Dave.
that's basically, I just wanted to bring that to
Thank
your
you.
attention, because I think, it could be very relevant.
Couldn't do any worse.
We'll look
Thank
at
you.
it for you. You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else from the public on the resolution? Okay, Resolution 1 has been revised to include the public hearing date of November 2nd. Publication to be paid for at the expense of the applicant, and it shall be published in Newsday by the 21st or 22nd of October to meet the requirement. So with those revisions, we could offer that resolution.
I'll move for resolution number 103 of the Riverhead Planning Board for the public hearing on November 2nd. 106. I have 103.
103.
I have 103.
On the first one?
Yeah, 103.
Great Rock.
Okay.
The date shall be November 2nd, and the posting will be in Newsday. So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 103, scheduling a public hearing for Great Rock Clubhouse. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution is approved.
I'll move resolution 104 for minor subdivision extension, asking the resolution to grant a 90-day extension period for approval of a 4-lot subdivision. So moved.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 104, granting a 90-day extension for FAR minor subdivision extension. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved.
105, dynamic radiator. Resolution granting final site plan approval for a site plan application to construct a 11,000-foot gravel parking lot and 1,200 square feet paved asphalt driveway. So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 105, granting final site plan approval for dynamic radiator. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ed, you officially abstain? Okay, so resolution is adopted 3-0 with 1 abstention.
I'll move resolution 106 for chapter 219 for Kairos Sposato to approve a chapter 219 for a previously constructed masonry retaining wall. So moved.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 106 for a Chapter 219 approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
107, S-Power, resolution to adopt secret finding statement for subdivision of land, site plan, and special permit application. Construct a 20-megawatt solar photovoltaic facility on an existing sod farm on parcels identified as in the resolution.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 107, adopting the secret finding statement for S-Power on Edwards Avenue in Calverton. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. Okay, any comments from the public on any matter in front of the planning board?
Good afternoon. I'd like to talk about,
Just your name.
my name's Mike Foley, I live at 43 Woodlawn Drive in Reeves Park. And I was here interested in the discussion that you had in regards to the cider house. And I attended and spoke at the public hearing, and read from really written comments because I didn't really want to deviate on what I wanted to say. So today is kind of off the cuff based on what I heard here. And just commenting on the town engineer's description of the noise study that was made. One of the things that really hit me on that was the fact that he made the analogy of two people speaking from between 3 and 5 feet, coming up to 50 to 60 decibels. And that the park or the area has somewhere around a 65 decibel limit. If two people can bring up a decibel level between 50 and 60, what will 200 do? When I spoke here at the public hearing, I stated incorrectly that the size of the patio outdoors was able to fit 100 people. Looking over the staff report that I referred to, I was in error. Actually, the staff report said that it would hold up to 200 people. So I think now, Mr. Chairman, what we're talking about is not just the music speakers. We're talking about the amount of noise that comes from a group being moved outside to continue the party. I've been at the Side House 2 or 3 times. I agree with Ed. It is a first-class operation inside. They have a very nice location. It is high-end. I pass it once or twice a week. Over the weekend, it is standing room only. And it is true, from what the owner said, that there is music in the Cooperage in a fall festival. I learned something today. There's no permit for that. And it's been going on for years. And I do know that you are not in charge of enforcement. But I think when you look at these problems and you look at how things can morph from something that is in code and in conformance to just totally out of control is actually out of your control because you're not involved in enforcement. So I think the only thing you can really look at is what process precedent could you be putting in motion today or when this comes up for a vote, allowing music for the first time on the historic Sound Avenue corridor legally, to have somebody come in and say, he can do it, why can't I? I think enforcement is something that obviously needs an outcry from the public. This is not for you to do, it's for me to do. It's for the civic associations to do. The people that really care about the historic corridor of Sound Avenue. People that have fought this fight over the last 20 years, starting with Tom Kelly Memorial Drive, when we stopped strip mall development on the northeast and on the south, on the northeast and on the northwest part of Park Road, or Tom Kelly Highway. So what I'm looking at here is, and you identified it, Mr. Chairman, that the music speakers now become a threshold that has never been crossed before with the permission of the planning board. I have to tell you candidly, I'm more concerned about the 200 people that are going out there than these small speakers that are being spoken of now by the owner and the owner's lawyer. Ed, on another resolution, you stated, in regards to a location of an entranceway, that the character of the neighborhood would be affected by the entrance location. I would ask you to consider what the character of the historic Sound Avenue corridor would be affected by if we just allowed 200 people to come outside and to talk and to play and to listen to music. My objection is not just to the music speakers. My objection is to the fact that this business is now moving its business outside. I'm not objecting to the parking spaces, although there was bumper-to-bumper parking on Sound Avenue that was in violation of the parking violations. I'm not blaming it on this owner. The Baiting Hollow Vineyard has illegal parking. The Cooperage Inn has illegal parking. Hobbs Farm has illegal parking. I don't want to single this gentleman out, but I also don't want him to sound like a martyr when he says he's coming here asking for permission when nobody else did. The fact of the matter is, before he asked for permission, he violated the covenants that he signed. He states, his attorney states, that they voluntarily limited their hours. Well, that was in the same group of covenants that they have violated 4 other covenants on. The music, the extension of the seating location to go outdoors, the parking spaces, the pizza ovens. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. It sounds to me like that is a done deal. Although the staff study made it sound to me that those pizza ovens being installed now became a health department issue, something that they needed to rule on. So my entire intent here was to keep the party indoors, to keep all of the noise confined into that very nice structure where he can make a very nice living. And allowing 200 more people out there involves another 100 parking spaces that he doesn't have. It's laudable that he has given space for the charity that is housed there. I've got no problem with that. I commend him for that. I don't know if there was a tax break involved in it, but I don't want to look at that. I want to look at the altruistic result of it, that there are hungry people that are using food that would otherwise go to waste. What I'm asking you to consider is the long-term effect on the noise and the corridor that has been protected since 1974. And then because again, you seem very much in favor of the music and in everything else. And I'm very thankful that the chairman, who was quoted stating he had no problem with it, now states that he sees a problem with the music speakers. I thank you for that. But I would also ask you to just consider the character of the neighborhood that would be impacted by moving the party outside. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
Vic Pershnowski, 533 Elton Street, Riverhead. In regard to St. Bales, I'm very familiar with that letter. The Supreme Court ordered, we have a signed stipulation of agreement with the town of Riverhead, which I'll provide at the public hearing as evidence, and that really trumps that. Right now, I think RA 80 allows for a golf course maybe by special permit, but at the time we created the golf course, one of the covenants we put on there was golf-related, restricted the clubhouse to golf-related events. You know, we can run the restaurant golf-related and all that. And we did, I think we issued a special permit and a site plan approval for the golf course. So in my opinion, this is just a continuation of pre-approvals, but it was thoroughly addressed in the stipulation of agreement from the attorneys and Dawn Thomas, who signed it on behalf of the town of Riverhead, and it was approved by the Supreme Court. So I will present that at the public hearing.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to come up, so be prepared.
No,
to,
I've anticipated it already. I know why that memorandum was written, and quite frankly, I don't agree with it at all. But it's immaterial now, because in the process of what happened here years ago, we had a situation where the previous partners, we had a situation where we had a noise event up there, and basically the golf course paid the fine. We paid a $10,000 fine. We came to an agreement with the town, and the outcome of that agreement was to remove the tent permanently and make the application for the expansion of the clubhouse to substitute for the tent, and it's all laid out there. There's like 15 pages of the zoning and everything, because they were very thorough on it. I'll present that to the public hearing for you.
Thank you.
Just want to bring that to your
Okay, minutes of October 5th.
So moved?
for approval. Second, somebody have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes and second for October 5th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Nothing for executive session. Next meeting date, November 2nd at 7 PM. Motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Is that yours?
I think it was an extra for,
Relations, Edward?